So, hello and welcome to Truth You Can Wake Up To. I'm Samuel William, and I am speaking to you, as my computer says, on the 4th of September 2012. It's currently 9 minutes past 9 in the morning. Good morning! It's sunny out there, although I can't see it. I'm stuck in a soundproof booth in North London. So, what am I talking about today? Well, the episode is called NWO New World Order Timeline Syria. What am I talking about? I like to keep an eye on various New World Order establishments and institutions. And one of the ones I always keep an eye on is the old Brookings Institute. The Brookings Institute is Washington's oldest think tank. It's one of our old friends. Hello! And the Brookings Institute have produced a rather lovely paper which they broadcast or released. They released in August 2012. Now, it's from their Saban Center, which is their Center for Middle East Studies. Let's study the Middle East. And it's called Unraveling the Syria Mess. Unraveling the Syria Mess. Which is already quite an interesting title. Syria Mess. What's another word for mess? Disorder? Or chaos? What's unraveling? Is that producing order out of chaos? Unraveling the mess. Order out of chaos. Have we heard that little slogan before? Now this document is rather revealing in that, and I can give this exclusive, yes, Washington's oldest think tank does admit that Saudi Arabia funds terrorism. A little exclusive there. We'll share that with you a little bit later on. Of course, I will provide a link at the bottom of this video of the entire PDF if you want some light reading next time you're on the train. Now, on the front, there's a picture of a sniper. Look at this hero. Look at that hero with the hoodie. He is a true hero. I wonder where he got that nice, new, like, bulletproof ammo holder. I wonder where he got that. Could it be that he got it from us? Could it be that you paid for that? Oh, but you don't want to be worrying about these things. Don't you know the Paralympics is on? Focus, man, focus. Look at the hyperhumans. Look at how brave. Look at how wonderful they are. And we've just had the actual Olympic Games, these superhuman individuals. And look up on the balcony of the Ecuadorian embassy. Look, don't look at what we're doing in Syria. Don't look at that. That's boring. Look up at the balcony. It's Rapunzel. Rapunzel, let down your beautiful golden hair. So this paper is by a few individuals. A man called Kenneth, a man called Frederick, a lady called Kimberly Kagan, and somebody called Marissa Sullivan. And she's the deputy director of the Institute for the Study of War. Let's study that war. Old Frederick, by the way, Frederick Kagan, yes, Kimberly Kagan and Frederick Kagan, but Frederick, old Freddie W. Kagan, is director of the Critical Threats Project at the American Enterprise Institute. Enterprise. So, what are they talking about? Well, this paper, I'll read you the little introduction on June. Sorry, I'll read it in the voice of the Saban Center for Middle East Policy. On June the 27th, 2012, the American Enterprise Institute and the Institute for the Study of War and the Saban Center for Middle East Policy at the Brookings Institute jointly conducted a one-day crisis simulation that focused on the impacts of spillover from the deepening civil war in Syria. Sorry, did I say our deepening civil war? Oh, sorry, no, I meant the deepening civil war, the deepening civil war in Syria. The simulation consisted of 3 moves and featured an American, a Turkish, and a Saudi team. The intent was to explore the interaction between the US government and 2 of its most important regional allies most able to act in Syria for various reasons, open parentheses, and among the most affected by the violence in Syria. Those poor guys. Close parentheses. The simulation looked at potential developments between August 2012 and April 2013. Potential developments between August 2012 and April 2013. And it's all about what they call the spillover. So it's all about spillover. So if you have been watching the Olympic Games and the brain was sort of muddied and twisted with all sorts of PC stuff, like all this stuff with Julian Assange, somebody who probably at some point worked for the intelligence agencies of at least 2 different countries. Somebody who at some point most probably has been towing some kind of agenda that is not his own. But is rape wrong? Is that seriously what it was all about? There are so many questions about Julian Assange that aren't to do with rape and whether it's wrong. Can you believe in I don't know what it was like internationally, but in the United Kingdom there was like let's have a public debate. Is rape wrong? I mean, that is a question that was solved over 3,500 years ago. But it's about filling people's minds so that they don't have to think about how the West is starting another war. It's happening right now. In fact, it's somewhat of a proxy war between the West and the East. When I say East, I really mean Russia. Russia arming and funding the government side of Syria. The West arming, training, funding, advising, supporting the terrorists. Sorry, the freedom fighters. The Al-Qaeda freedom fighters. Directly funding a terrorist organization that is trying to take over a different government. That might cause a little bit of cognitive dissonance within people's brains. They might not want to hear about it. They might want to hear about disabled athletes. They might. And charity. Now, this whole document is essentially informing us that Turkey is going to invade Syria. Invade? No. They won't use that word. They're going to, and please keep an eye out for this, what they're going to do is they're going to use the words safe zone. Safe zone. And as this paper says, it's all about spillover. It's about creating massive chaos, which, by the way, means violence against civilians coming from both sides. Very much. People displaced. I mean, it doesn't matter whose side they're on. Do you want people outside your house with Kalashnikovs shooting them in the air? Do you want people outside your house shooting Stinger missiles at enemy aircraft with missiles provided from the goodies? And I don't mean the old radio series, The Goodies. I don't think they do weapons sales. Although everyone's branching out nowadays, they might be associated with the American Enterprise Institute. Now, are you interested in enterprise? You seem to have a lot of money. Want to avoid tax? How about Stinger missile? Okay. They expressly say on page 3 of this, under it's all about spillover, that they actively, they need spillover. They need spillover. It's because that is the strategic threat. Now, this is the wording they're going to be using when they go to the different countries like Turkey and Saudi Arabia and the surrounding countries, where they try and get what they would lovely and probably won't call a coalition of the willing. But essentially what we're talking about here is genocide. Again. So, Turkey's crucial role. And there's one thing that says in here is that the UN, any UN resolution is going to be blocked by Russia. So the UN cannot be, in air quotes, used for this agenda. This is what they say. So they will have to use, for this agenda, NATO, otherwise known as the World Army. This is certainly about furthering the development and the cooperation of a world army. This is not about spreading democracy. This is not about spreading democracy. How do we know? Well, because the Washington's oldest think tank informs us that this is not about democracy. Because it says that the United States... this is on page 4 at the bottom. It says the United States, Turkey, and other regional allies are to work out in advance post-war mutually agreed upon political outcome. Does that sound like democracy of the people of Syria? Regional allies work out in advance post-war planning and a mutually agreed upon political outcome. That doesn't sound like democracy. It's similar that here in the United Kingdom, if Belgium, France, and Spain decided who was going to be our Prime Minister, and actually, strangely enough, it's not that far from the truth. Certainly Brussels. Now, they talk about the limited Arab role. This starts on page 5, the limited Arab role, because Saudi Arabia doesn't really want to get involved, be seen to be involved, but they are happy to fund proxies. They're more than happy than that. They've got money coming out of their ear holes, and the money is streaming towards where, by the way? Towards where? Towards the terrorists. Under the paragraph that says the limited Arab role, it says halfway down the first paragraph, the ability to provide some diplomatic cover and support and to fund oppositionists, insurgents, and terrorists are useful adjuncts to a larger policy, but they cannot bring about a decisive change on their own. So let me paraphrase. The Arab role is to provide some diplomatic cover by supporting terrorists because they are useful to a larger policy. Now let me say that again. The Arabs, being Saudi Arabia is going to provide diplomatic cover and support to terrorists because they are useful adjuncts to a larger policy. It says that there in black and white, and this is the kind of documentation and the Brookings Institute advise the American administration. But then they sort of deal with, diverging interests. And this is where contracts come in, where the resources are divided. And when's this going to happen? Well, we know when this is going to happen. It's going to happen between August 2012 and April 2013. And it's not going to be the UN. It's not going to be the world government. No, it's going to be NATO, the World Army. Specifically, when is it going to happen? I have written a note for myself. It says that it's going to happen after the American presidential elections. I quote, this is at the bottom paragraph on page 3, and I quote, "The American team posited that after the US presidential elections, Washington would likely be inclined to make a much greater effort to bring about the end of the Assad regime." And this is about a takedown. And actually we have another admission under the headings of divergent interests, is where they admit that they're going to take down Assad just like they took down some other places, which is quite interesting. It's in the first paragraph underneath divergent interests. It says, in regard to the importance of what followed the removal of Assad, reinforcing the lesson from Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Egypt, etc., that the takedown of a regime is ultimately much less important than the follow-through. Political, economic, and social reconstruction. Social reconstruction. That is the scariest little sentence I've ever heard. Social reconstruction. Now, it says takedown. The lesson from Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and Egypt about the takedown of a regime. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. Iraq was definitely a takedown. We know, everyone knows that. Afghanistan, even more, was definitely a takedown. It was a declaration of war in Afghanistan, really. Iraq was an completely illegal war, but we know that Afghanistan had actually no legal basis. But really, as far as the greater and the international courts or whatever are concerned, Afghanistan was a proper war. Iraq, however, was not, but both were a takedown. Libya, that was definitely a takedown. Egypt, it says in this document that Egypt was a takedown. I know that everybody knows that Egypt was a takedown, but as far as the official story was concerned, that was supposed to be a populist uprising, not a takedown. That wasn't a takedown, that was a rise up. Yet in this document it says that Egypt was a takedown, admitting there has been Western influence in the Arab uprising, the Arab Spring, throughout the Middle East. As if we didn't know! But here it is in black and white. Here it is in black and white, and this is an official document. I'll provide a link at the bottom if you want to have a look at it. Towards the end, it's got a big thing about compartmentalization. Another thing's come out as well, which is mildly interesting, in that is a PDF called The Day After. Now, I'm not going to reproduce any of this because all over it there are massive disclaimers saying, only with express written consent can you reproduce this, which is called The Day After. The Day After Project, supporting a democratic transition in Syria. And who has created this? It's published by an independent Syrian NGO. Independent Syrian NGO. How independent are they? Oh, they're funded by the US State Department. That definitely makes them an independent Syrian NGO. And it's a PDF basically about what's the context, what are the challenges and risks, what are the strategies, and what's the timeline to implement the democratization or the fucking up of Syria. Which you can read. I'll put a link to that as well. I'm not allowed to reproduce any of it. I don't know what they're trying to hide. I'm allowed to provide a link, but I'm not going to be showing you anything from it. And when you read about the people involved, the people involved in this so-called democratization of Syria, the freeing of Syria, they're people who have mixed with Washington a lot. They're involved with the US Institute of Peace, which to me sounds like straight out of 1984, the Institute of Peace. What does that actually mean? The Institute of Peace. If you read 1984, you realise that the Institute of Peace is actually the Institute of War, which is what democratization actually means. It means war. But it's called the Day After, a non-governmental organisation that connects Syrian dissidents worldwide to develop a blueprint for what should happen once Assad is ousted. The NGO is funded mostly by the State Department, the US State Department, and additional funding from some European governments and NGOs. Remember, though, that this is an independent Syrian NGO. So let me know what you think. I'm sure most of you out there are going to be appalled at reading this, just as I was. But let me know what you think. And let me please click the thumbs up button. Share this as much as you can. If you're into doing that sort of stuff, that would be brilliant. Until next time, I've been Samuel William, and this has been Truth You Can Wake Up To.